Hey, and welcome back to the channel, and this is the third part of the video series on how to be happier in life by finding your core values. So in this video I'd like to explain how you can increase your levels of happiness by crafting goals and engaging in activities that fit with your most important values. Because at the end of the day, ultimately, happiness is a choice. We don't always realise it, but it absolutely is. Hi, I'm Stephen Burns from Mind School, and I've been a practicing therapist, coach and trainer for just over 20 years. And in this video, I'd like to share with you a little kind of strategy that you can use to organise your life for more happiness. Because the thing is, a lot of people think that happiness just kind of happens by chance. And some people have it, others don't, and we're given a certain amount at birth and we just have to make do. But actually, that is absolutely not the case. There are lots of things you can do to increase your levels of happiness strategically. And a lot of it is to do with, first of all, figuring out what your values are, and then crafting goals and engaging in activities that fit your most important values. So this is of course the third video of the series, so if you've not watched the first two yet, I'd strongly recommend you watch them. This one will make so much more sense if you do. So I've included the links to these in the description. If you haven't seen them yet, I'd recommend you check those out and then head back to this one. So just to do a very quick recap before we do this last piece, in the series we've talked about what a value is and why they're so important when it comes to your happiness. We've also looked at how you can figure out your own values and how you can organise them into a kind of league table of your top 3 or your top 5. And then we've looked at why it's important to define your values, why it's important to explore what they uniquely mean to you. So this final piece is to then take your values, take your descriptions, your definitions of them, and then to allow goals and activities to naturally come from them. And the reason why you want to do it this way is because it prevents you from falling into the trap of designing your life from the outside in. So often when people are looking to create a goal or engage in activities or create some kind of new direction in life, then they fall into the trap of doing it from the outside in, where they're heavily influenced by social expectation. Maybe it's their peers, maybe it's Twitter or Facebook or Insta or their celebrities, or maybe it's pressure from their parents. And I would recommend that this really is a big mistake, because at the end of the day, what you do with your life should really be up to you. Sure, you can take other people's opinions into consideration, you can use outside sources as inspiration, but when you're making decisions about your own life and about your happiness, you want to make those from the inside out. A great example of this, or an example of this not working, is the basketball player Wilt Chamberlain. Now, he was a player in the 1960s, and he was famous for having the best ever free shot ratio. So free shots is where if you're fouled, you then have to take a free shot from about 15 yards, 20 yards. My knowledge of basketball is limited, so if I'm wrong then please do correct me. And his free shot ratio was incredible. It was out of this world. And one of the reasons why it was so good was he had a very distinct way of throwing the ball. So rather than doing this, that's my demonstration of a basketball throw, he would actually do it underarm. And this is often referred to as a granny shot, because it's the type of shot your granny would do, even though I've never seen my granny play basketball. But anyway, so at the time, professional basketball players just didn't use a granny shot. In fact, even amateur players didn't. That was the thing that kids did, or of course your granny. So there was huge pressure on Wilt to change his style. And then one close season, he succumbed to that pressure from his coaches, he changed his style, and he converted to the normal way of throwing a free shot. And I don't know if you can guess what happened the following season. Yep, his scores started to tank. Why? Because he succumbed to peer pressure, to social expectation, and he changed it to a way that didn't really fit and didn't really resonate with him. And this can be so true when it comes to our goals, when it comes to our life direction, when it comes to the decisions that we make about our happiness. Sure, you can take inspiration from the outside, you can take advice, but ultimately you want to make the decisions from the inside out. So that's why it's so crucial to first of all explore your values, connect with the things that really resonate, that are important to you, and then allow goals and activities to naturally present themselves from those explorations. And I've mentioned this quite a few times throughout the series. The key thing here is that the more that you can live life in accordance with your values, then the happier, more fulfilled, and more satisfied you'll be with life. So of course the key question is, how do you do that? Well, I want to share with you a really cool, simple but powerful 3-step process you can put into practice pretty much straight away. So step 1 is where you write down your top 3 or your top 5 values. If you're doing this for the first time, I'd recommend you just do it with your top 3. It can sometimes get a wee bit confusing if you're doing it with the top 5 in the first sitting. So I'd recommend, stick with the top 3 at first, and then you can add on the other 2 later on. So once you've written those down, the second step is to look at your values and then ask 3 questions. So the first question is, how am I currently fulfilling these values? So this is a really important question to ask in the beginning because it will make it so that you start off from a positive base. So often when we're looking to craft goals or think about a new direction in life, then we do it from the premise that what we currently have is not good enough. This is one of the big issues I have with most self-help, is that it works from the premise that what we currently have is insufficient, that you need more confidence, you're not good enough, so you have to do this technique so you feel good enough, or your relationships are shit, so you need to do X, Y, and Z in order to improve them. That it really does work from the premise that what you currently have in your life is not good enough, and in some way you're not currently whole, and you have to do self-help techniques in order to become whole. Now, of course, we can all develop, and most of us have issues that we're dealing with in some capacity, but that doesn't mean that you don't already have some amazing things going on in your life. And so often we can take those amazing things for granted. So it can be really useful to start off by creating a positive base by asking that question, how am I already fulfilling those values? Then once you've done that, you then want to move on to the second question, and that is, what goals would allow me to fulfill those values even more? So then from there, you're just looking to brainstorm ideas. Now, of course, goal setting is a huge topic. It's well worth doing more videos on actually, but just to give you some key pointers, I would recommend you first of all brainstorm as many goals as you possibly can that you think would allow you to fulfill those values more, and then pick 1, 2, or possibly even 3 key goals that you think would make the biggest difference. And that can help you really focus in and allocate your time to the places that matter the most. Also, when you're creating goals, I'd recommend you create ones that are ambitious but not ridiculous. For example, if you are 50 years old and you decide that you want to become Wimbledon champion, but you've never ever lifted a tennis racket in your entire life. Now, if that's the case, then kudos for being ambitious, but with the greatest will in the world, you ain't going to beat Rafael Nadal or Novak Djokovic or Andy Murray, let's go all Scottish. In fact, you might be able to beat Andy Murray currently because he's not doing the best at the moment, but anyway. But that would be what we would describe as an unecological goal. It's not within your sphere of influence. It's really ambitious, but it is quite ridiculous when you think about it. So you want to create goals that are ambitious, but not ridiculous. And also create ones that make you excited and nervous, but don't overwhelm you. That's usually my kind of test for when I've got a goal that is really good for me. If I'm excited by it, but a little bit nervous, but it doesn't overwhelm me. So it's going to stretch me, and it also fits with something deep, something that resonates with me. So you want to ask that question, and then you want to finally explore what would be some activities that would allow me to fulfill those values even more. Once again, just brainstorm, create a list, and then come up with 1 or 2 or maybe 3 key ones that you think would make the biggest difference. So that's step 2, and then step 3 is where you take action. This is, of course, where the rubber meets the road. Don't just write this down. You want to take all of those explorations and then put it into ongoing behaviour, practice, and action. So you then want to do something. What are you going to do daily, and what are you going to do on a consistent basis that can help you progress towards those goals and engage in those activities? And by doing this, oh man, because you've created those from your values, They'll give you so much in terms of happiness, fulfillment, and satisfaction. So just one additional point I'd like to make before we wrap things up here, and that is when you are crafting these goals, when you're exploring these activities, you might not find one goal or one activity that will fulfill all of your most important values. And now if you do, by the way, it sometimes does happen, then congratulations, you've found your life purpose. Great job! But a lot of the time that doesn't happen. So what we have to do is we have to have a range of goals or a range of activities that fulfill different values. For example, most of my business goals will fulfill the value that I have for growth. That's one of the reasons why I love running a business. It puts me into situations where I have to grow, I have to develop, I have to learn and discover new things. It's amazing, I get so much pleasure from it, it brings so much happiness to my life. However, it maybe doesn't tick the box when it comes to connection, another important value that I have. Sure, I connect with people, with clients, with my business partner, with members of my team, but it's not really the kind of connection that leads to a huge amount of fulfillment. For me, it's fulfilling, but there's something that's missing there. So because of that, I create other goals and other activities to tick that box. It's one of the reasons why I started to learn salsa dancing, because it has an amazing community and you get to meet all kinds of different people, make amazing friends and get that fantastic connection without necessarily having to feel like I'm, managing them or, influencing them or selling to them or whatever. So you want to create a range of goals, a range of activities that will fit these individual values. You might find that one fulfills lots of values. If that's the case, then fantastic. That will be a great thing for you to do. So that is the third and final part of the series on how to be happier in life by finding your core values. Hopefully you found this useful and you're really putting it into practice. If you can let me know how you're getting on in the comments, I'd really be interested to hear your progress. So that's all from me. Have a great day and I'll see you later on.